Would you go? You'd go and watch that film, wouldn't you? I'm not sure Dave would pay the ticket. How about you, Marcel? Would you?
Sorry, I was distracted by an
As ever, not listening.
That's a typical producer.
Yeah.
Yeah, always distracted.
Thanks for your contribution, Marcel.
Yeah, no thanks.
Welcome to Cloud Realities, a conversation show exploring the practical and exciting alternate realities that can be unleashed through cloud-driven transformation. I'm Dave Chapman.
I'm Sjoukje Rob.
And I'm Rob Kernahan.
And this week, it is our season finale. We're about to go on holiday, guys. It is the summer, and we thought to bring the season to a bit of a close before we go off for a couple of weeks, we'll do a few reflections on what we talked about over the course of seasons 1 and 2. I think it's fair to say that all of us on the team have had an amazing journey, like an amazing learning journey, and had the privilege to talk to some amazing guests. So we're going to bring some of our personal reflections and look at some of what we think are the big themes of the seasons. The other big thing that's going to happen on this episode, which is exciting, you're going to have a mystery voice that's going to drop down out of the heavens like the angels are smiling on us. So it's something to look forward to, isn't it, Sjouk?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, yeah.
The tension is palpable.
So funnily enough, we put all of our themes together. We did a little brainstorm and collated what resonated with us across the 2 seasons that we've been running the show now. And we did it blindfold, so to speak. So we all did ours independently and we gathered it together under a series of themes to see what popped out. So we thought, given it's the end of the season and we're coming into the summer, that it might be good to just take a moment, sit back with a cocktail or a glass of whatever you like as you're sitting on the beach and reflect on the things that we've seen and learned over the course of the last 8 or 9 months of the show and before we get into season 3 in the fall time. So let's kick into it, shall we? Now, the big unassailable and pretty much unmissable aspect of the entire last 12 months almost certainly is the rise of AI. And I think right at the very beginning, the first episode of the show, we did a little trend summary of what we thought cloud would look like over the course of the next 12 months or so. And I think it's fair to say, Rob, that we were miles off. Didn't have AI in it to start with.
Dave, easy. Don't say that. Sugarcoat it a little bit, at least. I don't think we ever perceived that the explosion in AI, ChatGPT, and everything that came with it, especially in the last 4 months, would be anything like it has been. Definitely. We knew it would be there as a theme, but you couldn't have imagined it like it played out.
No, that was really a big surprise. Yeah.
I think you got down to now, you get into the level where ChatGPT is getting sued because it's been proven to have trained itself on text that was copyrighted. So what we've had is this explosion of capability, and now we're seeing the consequences of the actions of, putting the technology out there. No doubt it will be for good, but there's a few bumpy roads ahead for AI, I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that struck me from a lot of our conversations about getting the data right in your organization is frankly, AI is only as good as the data set.
Yeah.
And getting that data set in the right sort of order, whatever that looks like, is as difficult and as hard yards and as problematic as ever, right, Sjouk?
Yeah, it is. And high quality data is also the base of unbiased AI. So that's also, it's extremely important to have a good data set to rely on when you start with AI.
And the bit I always liked was where we came up with we discussed the AI will actually be a mech suit for the human. So it's not going to replace, but what it will be is in its early forms, the reducing the toil, making life easier, facilitating things. And I like that analogy because it feels like that could be a very quick early win for AI where we use it to help manage logistics and just the stuff in life that's hard work to do but you need to do.
I also remember a remark, Rob, that you mentioned that Excel And having data in Excel sheets is really the sort of survival mode for companies, because a lot of data is not structured in nice databases, but it's all in Excel.
Yeah, and it needs the human to know where it is and how to interpret it. So it's difficult for AI to be able to deal with it as an example.
Was that the voice of an AI, Rob?
Who was that? Yeah. Our very own.
Our AI assistant.
Our AI assistant.
The other aspect that we need to challenge with AI, and it goes back to Sjoukje, something you said about data and bias, and also, Rob, what you said about where it's sort of farming that information from. It really changes the relationship you have to have with judging what's truth and what's not truth, because you can't always assume truth, right, with this thing. Sjoukje, you've got to still keep a critical mind. So even though you get an answer back that looks absolutely beautifully written, could be beautifully presented with graphics, you've always got to remember, actually, I don't know where this really came from, so I can't assume that it's true, can I?
Yeah, it is, because it's just a text model, right? So it's going to create text for you based on an input, but it's not always correct in that. So you need to really double check if what comes out of it is actually the truth.
Well, there's two notable stories in that one. There's one, the lawyer used it to create case precedent, and of course the defense checked it and it all turned out to be complete rubbish. So check your sources, check your data. The other one is people use it, they put a calculation into it, and it's a large language model. It's not a calculator. So it responded with an answer that was completely wrong, but it did it as if it was right, but it's only because it found those numbers in text it had used before. So it's the understanding what is actually happening under the hood is also really important, because given a prompt and it comes back with certainty, people naturally want to trust that type of response, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's like, but if you understand that it's just a tokenized model that's statistically saying the next best thing to do is this, then you can only trust it for certain things, or it's only good for certain things. But where it does excel, I think, and this goes back to my haikus and cheese jokes, is that it can produce a form of creativity, which is quite interesting, which I've never seen before on a computer.
Yeah.
As much as I'm loath to disagree with you about that, there are some very solid advantages to this. Your cheese jokes have not proven that to me. I don't know about with you, Sjoukje, but I don't feel like AI has demonstrated its ability through Rob's leverage of it for cheese jokes, has it?
I absolutely hope it can do more than that. But I do enjoy them, Rob. So please, keep them coming. Yeah.
See, that's it. Permission to double down.
Plenty of creative headroom left, I think, there. So the other big theme, I think, that we'd all heard of, but I think have all been pretty compelled by during this is quantum and quantum computers, and some particularly incredible things, I think, about how, like, over the next 10 years, not only will quantum come of age, but AI will come of age alongside it, which obviously opens up like an enormous aspect of what the future could look like real step change stuff. So Sjoukje, when we were talking about quantum, what stuck with you?
Yeah, what was my biggest takeaway in that, I was always under the impression that quantum will replace classical computer once, someday. But that's not the case, because it's strong for certain areas, but classical compute is still here to stay.
Yes. I think this might be my single most resonant moment, and I've talked about this over dinner with quite a few groups now, that the notion of quantum computing within the next 10 years, I think it was, or the next 15 years, will be powerful enough to model an atom. And then from that point onwards, lots of things become possible in terms of what we can understand. But a classical computer to model an atom would need to be the size of the solar system.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get sound bites like that very often, do you?
No, you don't. And it's the we need it if we want to continue the ability to use technology to find answers. Quantum has to be part of that ecosystem that we embrace. Although I do reiterate the point around, I quite like the idea of being galactic data center manager. I think that's a job I'm now sold on that. So when we need a galactic data center, I'm in. 100%.
Rob, I think you're almost certainly first in the queue for that.
Yeah, you are. Only if you have a good cheese joke about that.
There's got to be actually, that's one. I'll ask ChatGPT later and tweet about it.
That's something to look forward to.
Also, one of the things that was mentioned on the cat in the box one of the guests mentioned that on quantum computing, you
Schrodinger's
don't know.
cat.
Yeah, so the cat is dead or alive, but you only know if you open the box. So it's not 1 and 0, but it could be a sort of stage in the middle, and the unknown factor. That's really, I can't still get my head around it.
No, and the notion of superposition, and how it relates to that. So a computer can understand all 3 states like all at once and all at the same time is literally mind blowing to me. You know, I can't visualize it.
The cat can either be dead or alive. It can be both. Yeah.
Yeah, and until we started to have these conversations, I'd never quite brought together the notion of the hardware evolution with the notion of the algorithmic evolution. Rob, what was your takeaways from there? Other than you've got your new career set out in front of you. Yeah.
New job, thanks. And I will treat it as the phony baloney position it will become. The thing for me was the different way of thinking about developing algorithms to generate the answer. And we also discussed the new mastery that will be required along that. We spent decades mastering the building digital code and releasing it to live in a coherent and efficient way. Quantum's going to need us to rethink that because that process is much more difficult. So how do we deal with that? How do we learn? How does an enterprise or an entity take quantum, get the mastery and be able to use it for good? And I think we're going to have to learn a whole new set of skills, and we're just waiting for quantum itself to mature to a point where it's accessible.
Yeah. So in the next 10 years, the world of quantum collides with the world of AI, and it may generate multiple different realities of simulation.
Well, together with cloud. Don't forget cloud.
Obviously it will all be hosted in the galactic cloud at that point. I think, Sjoukje, we're talking really mega data centers at that stage. But could we be in that simulation, do you think?
After that episode we did with Anders, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I'm actually starting to come to the conclusion that it's more probable that we are in fact all living in a simulation.
Oh, you're falling in that direction.
I am absolutely falling for the idea. I've read up a lot on it afterwards and spoken to quite a number of people about it, as it has been one of those things that has got inside my brain.
Yeah.
And actually, what I find hilarious is somebody who hasn't been introduced to the subject, initial reaction is always, that's complete rubbish. And then over a period of about half-hour conversation over a beer, they go, oh
shit.
God, we're actually in a simulation. It's beautiful. As you work through the logic, it just goes, it's more probable that this is true than it isn't.
I know.
It's kind of sad.
I don't know how to feel about it, because I like the conclusion we got to in that episode, which is, well, you're still experiencing everything that you're experiencing, right? So does it matter ultimately, do you think, that, well, if you're having a lived experience and everything around you and you're feeling emotions and you're engaging with whatever world this is, so does it really matter, do you think, Sjoukje?
No, it doesn't matter. I came to that conclusion because otherwise I couldn't cope with it. It doesn't matter in which reality you live.
So it's more of a coping strategy than
it is. Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
I think, Rob, also the Black Mirror episode on the virtual world, that was
Joan
also...
is awful.
Joan is awful. Listeners, if you haven't seen it, Netflix, Series 6, Episode 1, Charlie Brooker basically explores the subject, and it's an absolutely phenomenal episode.
So we're recording this, and it is mid-July. So this is going to go out probably early August. And at the moment in Hollywood, the actors are just about to go on strike, I think.
Well, they have done, haven't they? They've walked out, yeah.
And did you see that one of the things, talking of Joan is awful, one of the things that they're up in arms about is, even if you're like an extra for a day, they wanted a right in that contract to scan your face and then use your likeness in perpetuity. That's Joan is awful.
Well, it literally is, and it's quite scary, I suppose, because it once you've got a representation, when AI matures to a particular point, film in Hollywood has already shown they can. The latest Star Wars films and all sorts of stuff, they've used CGI to a point where it becomes very believable, but it is totally computer generated.
Yeah, well, the de-aging of Harrison Ford in Indy is
great example.
Quite striking. Quite striking, and they did that, didn't they, by scanning, because they've got a lot of Harrison Ford footage because of he'd done so much work with Lucasfilm. Like what they managed to turn out there is a real, I think, step forward.
But going back to our original point, this is the precursor technology to us being able to create a simulation that we can then model a world and a universe in. So we are already picking up with the technology that allows us to create our very own. So there will be a simulation and a simulation and a simulation ad infinitum until we get turned off as the rogue processors discovered in the corner of the data center. Oh, what's that process? It's hogging a lot of memory. Boom, that's the end of us.
Nice. So let's move on to the human side of transformation. So we talked a lot in that first section about some of the big tech that has really captured our imagination. And of course, a lot of that big tech sits alongside the more practical realities that organizations are dealing with around getting this stuff out of data centers, moving to the cloud, the sort of the mechanical aspects that need to happen before you can create foundations for the sort of the bigger world of what's possible through this cloud-driven transformation stuff. But sitting alongside that, of course, are the human beings. And we spent a lot of time talking about the human elements of transformation and what that means. And the one that bubbled to the top that I was most despairing about, because by now you would have hoped that this is getting better, is where we're up to with diversity. And, we talked recently to Roisin McCarthy, one of the most recent episodes, and she dropped on us some data that we'd actually gone backwards in the last 5 years, and it was just an awful thing to hear. So, Sjoukje, what was your perspective on that, and how did that land on you? And what hope do we have? Do you think? How do we address it?
I was really shocked to hear that, to be honest, because I really thought that we were going upwards in terms of diversity. And that she mentioned that the pandemic was part of the decrease of diversity. That really shocked me. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I think Roisin is particularly involved in the world of data, and the point you made earlier about bias in data, it seems to me that if you haven't even got diverse teams working on shaping and managing and training models around data, you're almost certainly going to have unintentional bias in that data, aren't you?
Yeah, but not only in the field of data, right? We need diversity in each and every field to make sure that we create applications or software that can be used by each and every person on the globe.
When I reflect on that episode, the one that struck me, I suppose I was aware of it, but not in sharp focus, was that the system is broken at a very early stage. So even before careers start, way back in the early schooling, perception set, hardwired into our society and education process, which is creating huge friction, preventing the balance to occur. And there has to be a very significant set of actions that occur if we're going to properly fix the issue. It starts with schooling, perception, societal values, and all that sort of stuff. So it feels like a lot of effort is going in from a lot of very clever, talented people, but it's such a mountain to climb that it's going to take, it feels like it's a generational issue that will continue to plague us for some time to come.
Yeah, I concur with that. And the level of seriousness, I think, that needs to be put into things like STEM subjects in school, and making that open for all categories of human beings and just as attractive to them, is something that we really, really should take more seriously as a society, and government should lean into. And I know that we are certainly keen to do our bit on that. I think the other thing that we can get to faster than that, perhaps, though, to me, is around recruitment and the nature of recruitment. Yeah. We didn't cover this with Roisin, but what tends to happen is that people write job descriptions, both in the language of and in the almost in the shape and character of themselves, and then they become really wedded to that job description, as if that job description actually really meant anything, So to me, it feels like, yes, write job descriptions. Yes, be clear in the sort of skills that you're looking for, but don't be wedded to that. Like, look at the human being in front of you and just bend the job for them, like bring them in. That very act is embracing diversity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the people seek the 100% fit, or they go for the closest fit. And actually, you're better to get the right person and let them learn and shape than you are to go for this total perfect match. And while you always seek what you already are, so it's a self-fulfilling feedback loop that is, it will just continue to perpetuate what already exists. So yeah, you're right. I absolutely endorse that, Dave. It's the go for the best type of person with the potential and then shape them.
And don't assume because that person might have a different style, they might have a different background, they might be a different age, that they don't carry gravitas. Just because you frame gravitas saying one way doesn't mean at all that that's the true definition of it,
No, I agree. We all have to wake up to that fact and start to embrace it. But while we all have very busy jobs and we want the path of least resistance, maybe we'll always elect that pathway. It takes a lot of effort to break away from that. So it's a conscious move and it'll take a lot of energy to deliver.
Yeah, a bit on a personal note. If I look at my background, I come from a healthcare background. And I got into IT by building a website for my band. And I really love the creativity in that. So just expand the area where you are focusing on and finding people and recruiting people. Show the creativity in IT jobs, in programming jobs, etc. And expand the catchment area.
I love that thought. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, certainly for the subject we've been talking about, but also I think creativity generally is a much underused skill in the world of business. And my God, when you do bring that in, it really lights up the room.
100%. Things as like software development is a fundamentally creative process.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I would say transformation generally is a creative act.
It is.
And, being able to envision what the future might look like and then deliver into that, to me, feels inherently creative. There's a great book I've been reading by Rick Rubin called, hang on, just get it.
He's going to get it. While Dave's away, we'll note he is actually on a sponsorship deal for this book.
Called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And in the book, I couldn't recommend this more. It's quite an amazing read. Rick Rubin is a music producer. He's produced like all sorts of genres, from hip hop all the way through to Johnny Cash. And he basically talks about the nature of creativity and how there's this sort of perception that you have to be throwing paint on canvas or making music or film or whatever to call yourself an artist. But what he makes the case for is that art's visible in business, and creativity is visible in business. And I think the act of transformation is very creative if done correctly. And actually, you can see the ones that have got creative genius in them versus ones actually that are much more mundane, It shows up in the results, I think, like the hardcore business results. And that maybe bridges us into the nature of transformation itself, which is something we discussed in a number of episodes that we had some reflections on. So Rob, tell us about design for adaptability and what resonated with you.
So this was the thing that was, had always been somewhere in my mind, but I never really properly grasped it until we did that episode on the Cynefin framework with David. And suddenly occurred to me that you design a system for adaptability and to be able to change quickly to meet the nature of the demand that's placed on it. And we learned that a lot through COVID. And the way it was discussed around dealing with complexity and complex needs to be distinguished, and that actually don't try and scenario plan everything through and predict the future and be preemptive, but actually build a system that's capable to adapt quickly as required. And then there was a whole set of things in my head that went off like a domino effect, and understood back when I'd looked at things that had been very successful, it was all based in the ability for the system to be adaptable to change. And that was what really struck me about transformation. It's about prepare for the future by creating a flexible system.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that the whole world of digital transformation is all about for me is that the sort of the new era of tech that we're in, starting with the cloud and including a lot of the tooling that we've examined this season, like AI tooling and data and etc. That's all about being able to fast respond to things. Yeah. So, technology in the client server era was like an anchor point, I think, because it had such long lead times that you almost had to address it in a more waterfall-like way because you couldn't do it any faster. Well, cloud era technology, that's constraint is completely gone. So it frees up businesses to just be pure response machines. So like understand the market, respond, understand the market, respond. And to me, that sort of complex way of leading is entirely possible now. And when you talk digital transformation, it's really about instilling into an organization the ability to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. Cloud has become I should say cloud has removed the constraint to allow us to work in a different way and build systems in a different way. And I think there's still a massive amount of education that has to be done about what can be different in the world that you used to know. And I think the more we can educate people around you can approach things and problems in a totally different way is the right answer. It's just for a lot of people, seeing is believing. And so they have to almost have a lived experience where they've seen the benefit of this new way of working and new technology approaches and the new way of leading, product-based operating models, platform-based structures, that suddenly you go, oh, right, yeah, we can do it, can't we?
Yeah, exactly. And Sjoukje, I know when we've been talking about transformation, the need to address culture, I think, is something that's resonated with you. So what stuck out for you that was new, that caused you to reflect on something, and how do you think that impacts tech transformation?
I think it's the biggest part of each and every transformation, because we just mentioned the technology is ready, right? We can adapt quickly, we can be flexible, but we still need to first experience what that actually is. So that cultural change, or the change that people need to undergo, is the biggest challenge in each and every transformation. Digital transformations, cloud transformations, it's always a big part of it.
And in one episode, I think we looked at that from a point of view of the human operating system. And I think the idea was that, we function much like any other machine that needs software upgrades every now and again, and maybe needs new apps added to it. And do you think that analogy holds, Rob, when you're trying to deal with a problem like Sjoukje just described?
Yeah, I think there's definitely parallels in it. We operate in a way that we've learned, like a program. We have a lived experience. That's the way we do. And you have to change the understanding of how you can do things. You have to experience it or be taught to do that. We all need the digital 2.0 cloud version edition add-on pack or whatever you want to call it installed in the back of our heads. It would be easier if we could just insert a USB key and have it done overnight. But unfortunately, it's a long old road.
We're not far off that.
Maybe we're getting there.
Musk's got his sign-off, hasn't he, from the FDA in the US to start trials of embedded chips and tech and stuff. So we're nearly there with that.
It would probably make a lot of things a lot easier, although there are some ethical issues to tackle on that one. But for me personally, the episode where we discussed the human OS was my favorite of the season, because it really talked about the human perception, the mind, how we actually behave. And the biggest issue we had that joke where we said the digital transformation failed. It must have been the technology. Let's swap the technology out. And it fails again. Oh, it must have been the technology, before we look back and go, maybe, just maybe, at the core of this might be the people involved are causing the failure. And it was that to understand that at the beginning. The nature of transformation, we said, was the people have to be right to enable the success to be good.
So if you look back on the season, what's the app that you installed in your human operating system that you carry with you now, do you think?
Oh, that's a very good.
I'm coming to you next, Sjoukje, so get thinking.
Yeah, you put me on the spot there, Dave.
Yeah. Marcel, I might even come to you in a sec too.
You've given the game away there with his name. For me, and there's a lot of thinking that has to go on here, it's the one about the upgrade was the understanding adaptability and designing a system and approaching a system to make sure that it can change if need be, and don't try and predict the future, but actually plan for now, prepare for next, and build something that's right for the future. Would be the app I installed, the remember to create adaptability in everything you do.
Sjoukje?
I think I would install ChatGPT.
That's the fast way around it, I think.
Yeah.
A direct line.
That will solve everything, every challenge and every problem that I have.
I'm never asking you to add up two numbers then after that. I'll upgrade.
Tempted to do my quantum science joke again.
Yeah. No, the bit I like doing is ask ChatGPT to say you're a pirate and then do something. Is that used? Because probably people could say you're now this personality type, now behave like this as well.
Pirate. Arr.
Arr, me hearties. That could be, we could do a pirate themed episode and that would be very exciting.
I'm sure people will love that. Marcel, what's your upgrade?
Yeah, so my upgrade, it's a combination between what we learn as a person combined with normal computer and also quantum computers. So I have a scene in thought about the Matrix, where you can learn to fly in a helicopter in 10 seconds. And so you can learn something. And that's something that I was dreaming about for the last 55 years to do that, to not only swap places in the world within 1 second, like a cartoon person, but also learn things within only a few seconds. So the combination between the normal computer and the quantum computer, where you have the sort of the power to learn something in 1 or 2 seconds, that would be really cool. So suddenly I can be a pilot, or I can be, I don't know, it's something you always want to be on only a few seconds.
Podcast presenter.
Yeah.
Producer.
Maybe, yeah.
So mine is, I mean, it feels like just in the last year with AI in particular that we're on the verge of something. But I think the horizon, like the 10-year horizon to me, it's been a real eye-opener in a number of the conversations we've had this season. Just how much is converging in the next 10 years in terms of the next big leap. And this maybe sounds like hyperbole, but I mean, it really feels like an evolutionary step practically. It's so significant what's about to happen, I think, to society.
I have a view, though, on that, Dave, which is I do think that technology is going to go through a massive transformation, especially with things like quantum. I do also believe that society will reset its opinion and how we look at technology, because social media is ripping society apart. We're struggling with the algorithm. It's done lots of good, but it's also done lots of harm to people from a mental illness perspective and such like, and changed how, you know, the human perceives the world. I do think there's with that transformation, a reset is on its way,
and very much needed, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
otherwise we can't handle it. No.
Oh, the algorithm is causing us too much pain.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about the scarcity of resources. So Ron Toledo talked about that. So in the end, I think within 10 years, there people will lose their job. But a lot of people, like a plumber, just the basic jobs, they will be the new millionaires, I think, because still things must be fixed, must be solved, that you can't do with a computer. A nurse, for example, she still needs to be on the bed with a patient.
Yeah.
So I think the big shift in the whole world will be learn to work with your hands and fix things and
Going back to basics.
Back to basics and be creative in that.
And you are right, of course, the nature of resources and the sustainability challenge that we've got ahead of us as a human race, particularly those countries that are engaging in it in a serious manner, I think quite rightly should be top of everybody's mind and a theme that we will certainly be returning to in season 3. So in season 3, we are going to examine this colossal change that's in front of us through a series of different lenses. We're going to open season 3 with a guest who has recently climbed Everest. So he works in the same tech field that the rest of us do. And he's recently gone and done an amazing thing. And we're going to talk to him about the lessons he learned from such a colossal journey and how that applies to thinking about, frankly, some of the enormous changes that are going to face us over the course of the next 10 or 15 years. And then throughout the season, we will talk to CIOs who are practicing in organizations today and explore where they're up to and their challenges. It's very easy to leap to the far end of technology change, but actually there's a lot of hard yards that go on the ground. So we'll be examining the practical realities of what that looks like. And then I think we can't say much more about it at the moment, but I think we've got a barnstorming Christmas special coming up this year, which we will tell you more about closer to the time. Before all of that happens, we'll be at Google Next, which I think, Marcel, is the last week of August. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Last week of August.
So we will be doing 6 live episodes, relatively short episodes across the course of that week, bringing you the latest news and views from that conference. And then later in the season, we'll also be live from reInvent, where roving Rob Kernahan will be back in action, Rob.
You put the pressure on me again to come up with themes within about 2 hours or something. It's like, pressure.
2 hours is plenty of time. As you can hear, Rob is extremely excited about returning to being roving reporter.
Persona flip. My persona flip will have to occur again.
Right, so that's all coming up in season 3. Please join us for that. Now, as you know, if you're a regular listener, we end every episode of the show by asking our guests what they're excited about doing next. But given that it's just the gang today, we're going to ask Sjoukje to start with. What are you excited about doing over the summer, Sjouk?
I'm going to spend my whole summer on my current project, which is about moving houses. So that's basically it. I'm excited, looking forward to it.
Now, how many times are you going to move house over the summer?
Once.
It's going to take the whole summer to do it.
That's enough.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, that's enough stress. Yeah. When was the last time you moved house?
It was 18 years ago.
Right. So, yeah, get ready for that. You'll find. Yeah.
You can collect a lot of stuff in 18 years.
I know. That's why it takes that long. Yeah.
Good. We wish you nothing but luck with that. I'm sure it'll be worth it. I'm sure it'll be worth it in the end. Marcel, what are you excited about doing over the summer?
So the summer is a long period, but first we will have a sort of neighborhood barbecue. So this weekend.
Nice.
So that's on the short term. Long term on the summer. Yeah, that's a good question, Dave. So
it's as if we prepped these episodes.
It's as if we had a production scene. Like you knew the question was coming,
but not to me.
Maybe we should institute a production sheet for season 3.
Well, that's a good idea. Or indeed, just we follow the same pattern for every episode, and we've had about 30 or 40, and you're surprised that we do this at the end. Conversation.
Marcel, maybe join episodes in future. You'd be able to hear us do this.
It's possible. So is it a new theme? I don't know. No, but I'm excited about. So I did a sort of restructure of my garage, and I want to create a sort of workbench and do some woodworking.
Okay.
Nice. Working with hands.
Yeah. So in the past, I created even a famous chair from Rietveld. So it's the blue and red chair from Rietveld, and I created that myself. And I'm very really sort of have a sort of bond with wood. So I can create a lot of things.
How many legs has it got, Marcel?
It's in the end it's 4, but right. it's.
But with your new upgrade, you can do that in a matter of seconds, right?
Yeah, I know. So it will be easy. So I can create a whole sort of store with seats and chairs.
Maybe you could invent the 5-leg chair.
Yeah, a 5-leg chair.
A 5-legged chair. Yeah. I'm sure, just experiment, see if there's something in it.
Okay, I will send some pictures. Okay.
You don't look convinced, but it's innovation in practice. Rob, what are you excited about doing over the summer?
There's 2 things. First is I am a massive fan of dramatic scenery in the mountains. So we are going to get to go up and see the Norwegian fjords.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
I'm very looking forward to that. It's going to be good. And the second thing is the family theme park trip, which we always do every year. I am a massive fan of theme parks. Double down when you go in, do everything that you can, roller coasters, ride, all sorts, just do it. So we go every year as a sort of family tradition. So I always look forward to that day as well.
Lovely. Which one are you going to?
I think this year, other theme parks are available, but I think this year we're going to Alton Towers.
Nice, man.
Which is just up the road from us, so it's not too far to go either.
Enjoy.
So Rob, you always follow the sort of the rules, and I will never follow the rules. So I'm really, really flabbergasted that you are a fan of roller coasters, because I do a lot of things, but roller coasters is a no-go for me.
The race, and don't forget, Marcel, some very clever engineers have made sure it's very safe. And there's you have to put the harness on. There's a checklist to go through. It's perfect for anyone who wants to follow rules but get a bit of a thrill.
It's not the technology; it's the feeling in your stomach that I hate.
Oh, that's the best part. The loopy ones. Oh.
So, Dave, what are you doing this summer?
Thanks, Marcel. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to going on holiday. So I am delighted to say that today's my last day, and I'm about to go to Cornwall for 2 weeks, where we go each year. We do camping for the whole 2 weeks, and what I love about it is it sort of really pays you back. You spend your whole life surrounded actually by a lot of the things we're talking about, and obviously it's our jobs to help people with these things and talk about them, but actually also just to get away from them and spend some time on the beach and spend some time with your family that is not around devices or even in a house is just a joy. So we do that every year, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
As long as you got a mobile signal, yeah.
Exactly. Mobile signal and good weather.
Yeah, good weather. Mobile signal, lots of
That makes
wine.
a big difference.
Yeah.
Sjoukje.
A huge thanks to all of our guests in season 1 and 2 for your time and all your valuable insights. And of course to our sound and editing wizard Ben. And lastly to all of our listeners, old and new, thank you so much for your support. We know you have a lot of choices and we really love and appreciate the time you spend with us. So thank you. We're on LinkedIn and Twitter, Dave Chapman, Rob Kernahan and Sjoukje Rob. Feel free to follow or connect with us and let us know if you have any ideas for the show. And of course, if you haven't already done that, rate and subscribe to our podcast. See you in another reality very soon.